Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel, Make It Good. I'm Alex, and at the beginning of July, I decided to go ahead and take the plunge and become a Midway subscriber over at Vinegar Syndrome. So in case you're not aware of what the membership is, let me go ahead and briefly describe that to you. Twice a year, once at the beginning of the year and now once at the very beginning of July, Vinegar Syndrome has for 1 week an opportunity for everyone to become a member. If it's at the beginning of the year, you're paying for the full year. If it's in July, you're paying for the remainder of the year. To use round numbers, the beginning of the year is about $1,000. Middle of the year is about $500. It's going to fluctuate depending on what titles they're going to end up putting out, but it's about that area. So what do you get? Every single month, Vinegar Syndrome is going to put out some various releases, usually 3 or so Vinegar Syndrome branded releases, and then they'll put out their VSUs, their VSAs, etc., and then some merchandise. The membership only covers the regular Vinegar Syndrome releases. So anything VSU, VSA, any VHSs that they may put out, any books, shirts, or any other merchandise like that are not covered in it. But really, the money is going for the price of what 50% of the release would be, the regular Vinegar Syndrome branded releases. So basically, the 4 titles that I got in the month of July, I paid 50% of. So basically, it's just a deal, but you're automatically saying, just give me those movies, regardless of what they are. So this is kind of a blind buy situation. Generally, I'm pretty comfortable with blind buying, but normally I know what I'm buying ahead of time. This month to month, I don't really know. They've announced a few things that are coming out later in the year. The Prophecy trilogy is one thing that I'm actually kind of excited about. I've never seen it before. So, for instance, that's something we know is coming. But other things are just kind of a vague idea of what's coming. That is something you have to be aware of ahead of time, is you are committing to getting all of these releases, whether you like them or not. However, one of the biggest benefits to becoming a subscriber is that anything that's not already automatically included in your subscription, you get 50% of, as long as it's a disc. So any of the VSUs, VSAs, and any of the partner label releases, you get 50% off of. This is a fantastic deal, particularly for me with the partner labels and the VSUs, just because generally those catch my attention, but I hold off on, really looking through them very heavily, just because of, how much they would end up being if I wanted to get them all. Oh, and I did forget that any of the titles that are 50% off, they're only titles that release during the time of your subscription. So anything that released before is still regular priced. You don't get the 50% off. That's a benefit only for people who adopted in earlier. So the last 2 benefits that you get as a subscriber all have to do with shipping, and that's all subscribers get their packages first. So if you're not a subscriber, you do have to wait until all the subscribers have been dealt with. That's usually why shipping is so late if you're buying from Vinegar Syndrome, if you're buying new items. And the other thing is that as a subscriber, you get free shipping always. So anything you buy, even if you decide to buy it later, you get free shipping on. All right, so I did get my first Vinegar Syndrome membership package, and I wanted to just go ahead and give my brief thoughts on each of these movies, and I'm going to show you them in order of the Vinegar Syndrome spine number. All right, so the first movie on this list is a movie called Psycho Girls. Go ahead and show you the slipcover art there and there. This is a movie that came out in 1985 and was written and directed by Jerry Ciccariti. Just right off the bat, if you have any sort of issues whatsoever with mental illness not being portrayed in a realistic manner and more theatrically, this definitely is not the movie for you. One of the main parts takes place in an asylum, and it's the sort of over the top, asylum inmates that are akin to, a Batman villain, just overly theatrical, not realistic in any way. This movie, definitely was like a lower budget movie. I didn't personally like really any of the main characters. A lot of them came off very snide and snarky, so I had a really difficult time getting in touch with them. And then, of course, you have all of the villains of the movie, and they were so over the top that they were more there for entertainment value than actually being attached to anybody. There's a little bit of an unfocused narrative throughout, but if I am trying to pull any positives out of this movie, which I always try to do, I always do try to find some value in movies. Even though the sort of the people who have mental illnesses in this movie are not portrayed remotely realistically, and I don't think that's what they're going for. It did allow them to just really go and explore those characters in different ways, which I imagine as an actor can be a lot of fun. About halfway through the movie, there was something that I did find at least interesting with what they were trying to do, and that's that the inmates are putting on this performance for the people that they're terrorizing. Some really interesting ideas. I kind of felt about halfway through it, they sort of let go of the premise a little bit and then just sort of moved on with the movie. But it was very interesting. It kind of reminded me of those sort of, those performance artist murderers, like in Seven, for instance. So yeah, that's Psycho Girls. Not a whole lot really to say much past that. It was an interesting movie, but yeah. So, but if anything like that sounds interesting to you, maybe check it out and see how you feel. The next movie that was in the subscription package came out in 1972, and that is Delirium. That was directed by Renato Pulselli. I couldn't find a whole lot of information on him. He's only done about 5 or 6 movies. But what I did find is that all of his movies were very indicative of the times, especially for Italian films. So, highly sexualized, violence, that kind of thing. I mean, you can tell from the cover here that, it's going to be a violent movie. And like a lot of Giallo films, it's usually a lot of women who are victims. This movie, though, I do want to say, did try to do some interesting things, at least psychologically. It may not all be accurate, but again, this was in 1972. But they really tried to create a complicated villain in the form of Herbert. So, right off the bat in the movie, your main character, Herbert Leotak, is a murderer. You know this right away. He goes, hunts, and preys on young women, but he's conflicted about it. This isn't like a Patrick Bateman who seems to revel in everything he's doing. This is a married man. His wife Marcia plays a huge role in the film. And they have a lot of marital issues, a lot of concerns, but there's also, strangely for a giallo, there's a lot of love shown between the two of them. So in this weird way, it's also a love story, and it's a lot of his struggles with being a murderer and how that would affect his marriage. He's honestly just trying to have this relationship with his wife. Not that it excuses anything. So the main plot of the film really takes off when Herbert is pretty early in the movie, taken into custody because he's been fingered as a person of interest regarding a woman who's gone missing. But while he's in custody, another woman is murdered, and so suddenly the mystery of the giallo, which is one of the main cornerstones of many giallo films, is, well, who is the second killer? And so suddenly he is trying to psychoanalyze this other killer, capture them, and he's hoping to redeem himself. So Pulselli was known for, at least one of the descriptions I saw of him, of his movies being hallucinatory. And there's a dream sequence in the middle of the movie, which is depicted on the back of the slipcover, which I don't really think I can show you. And at first, when it came up in the movie, I thought it was just there to be exploitive. Lots of nudity, lots of sort of violence and sex. But by the end of the movie, that dream sequence really felt more important than what it initially felt when I saw it. If you do decide to check out this movie, which I think is a really interesting example in the Giallo films that I've seen, that pay close attention to that dream sequence in the middle of the movie. That was pretty fascinating to me. Once again, a lot of interesting things they're doing with the film. This may not be for everyone, but if you're a fan of Giallo films, this would be an interesting one to check out. All right, so the next film that I got in the package is a movie came out in 1986, and that is Terror at 10 Killer. I'll show you the front, show you the back. Now, this is a film directed by Ken Meyer, but it was also written by Claudia Meyer. I couldn't find too much information about how they're related. I'm assuming that they're partners or a married couple, however you prefer. But also Ken Meyer's son, Kevin Meyer. And I'm just saying Ken Meyer's only because I couldn't confirm that Kevin Meyer is the son of Claudia Meyer as well. So just couldn't find the information. But it seems like it was a big family affair, which is really interesting when you see that in movies, especially kind of like low budget horror movies. This comes off right off the bat as just a regular slasher film, even takes place at a lake. But this was really, really interesting. And I think a lot of this has to do with Claudia Meyer's script. Generally, when you think of a slasher film, the first thing you picture, at least the first thing I picture, is, 5 or 6 teens or young college students taking a camping trip somewhere, lots of sex, lots of drugs, and then a high body count because of the amount of people in the film. The body count actually isn't terribly high in this film, if that's something you're interested in. But what's really interesting is that it's really just centered on 2 women, college-age women, one of which, Leslie, who has an extremely controlling boyfriend, and Jana, who's just there to support her and suggests, hey, let's go on this trip and just get away from everyone for a while. And then throughout the course of the film, you're introduced to different men who all play a different role in how men interact with women, good or bad. So Charlie, for instance, who's known Jana for years, she comes out every summer. Jana being the friend who helps out Leslie, is very fatherly. And then you have, a guy named Preacher who's just kind of a creep. He's leering at the women all throughout. So this had a very different feel to it because it's written by a woman. And it's about the relationship of 2 women who are friends and just care about each other. So very different slasher and very interesting. And if you like a lot of sudden gory kills, you're gonna get them. So yeah, Terror at 10 Killer. This one I can really recommend. So the final film that was in my Vinegar Syndrome package is Gorgo, which released in 1971. This comes in this really nice hardcover slip case. The case inside, you got Gorgo just kind of chilling out at the bottom of the sea. Really nice packaging. So Gorgo was released in 1961 and was directed by Eugene Laurie. He was a French production designer, I believe, who worked with Jean Renoir, eventually went to Hollywood and would work not only with Renoir, but with Charles Chaplin, Sam Fuller, and some others. Before directing some movies of his own, mostly like dinosaur films and other sci-fi epics. But this would end up being his final film because he just got tired of being typecast as a director. But what a way to go out. This film was so much fun. It does have everything you want in a kaiju movie. You've got the little kid who knows more than all the adults and can connect with the kaiju in some way. But just the end scene, the rampage scene that is coming, was pretty incredible for 1961. You have this kaiju just tearing through London, just tearing down all these really notable spots. So the miniatures work was actually really really well done. And then the chaos on the street with the rubble falling and people trying to escape and going down into the tube and every moment of the rampage scene is really what you're looking forward to when you watch a kaiju film, and you will not be disappointed. I had an absolute blast watching this film. There's not really much more I need to say about it. If you love a good kaiju film, this is a really interesting one because it was a United States, United Kingdom, and Ireland joint production. So it has its own unique feel as well, but it's extremely well done. Can't recommend it more. Please check this out. And one thing I forgot to show you when I was showing off the artwork on the box is this really awesome Anatomy of a Gorgo poster that comes in with the release. Really beautiful poster. I'm seriously thinking about kind of flattening it and pressing it into a frame because it looks awesome. But yeah, you get that in the package as well. Can't be disappointed. All right, so that's everything that came in the box with the Vinegar Syndrome package. I'm sorry this video actually went on a little bit longer than I anticipated. But hey, let me know what you thought of any of those films down in the comments below. Did you pick up any of these films? Have you gotten a chance to watch them? And what are your thoughts on the Vinegar Syndrome membership? It is a lot of money to kind of put forth without really knowing what you're going to get out of it. But are the savings worth it for you? Are they not worth it? And you're just going to pick and choose. Do you not care about Vinegar Syndrome at all? Let me know. That's fine. I'll listen either way. So anyway, as usual, watch good movies, eat good food, take care of yourself and someone else if you can, and just make it good. Take care now.